Hello friends, welcome back to Broken BJJ. My name is Kenny. Today I want to talk about getting back to training after a layoff. In my case, I have had 2 knee surgeries, but those were at either end of a 15-month lockdown when we couldn't train at all. I had my first knee surgery, a meniscus repair, just about a week before lockdown started here in Scotland, and I just had my other knee, another meniscus repair done about 3 weeks ago, just before restrictions on jiu-jitsu training were lifted. So I've just went back on Saturday for my first session. The gym had done sessions on Tuesday and Thursday, but I just wanted to give myself a couple more days to get ready before I jump back in. First thing I will say is I am delighted to be back. I have been thinking about very little else for months now. I have been really kind of focused on the idea that in just a few more months' time I can get back to training. But at the same time, it was rough. It really was. Everybody was lovely. It was great to see everyone. Everyone was super friendly and very welcoming, which I wasn't entirely expecting. As a white belt, I thought maybe I would be one of the guys that people had forgotten a little bit, or people were not so keen to see because, I'm just not as big a part of the community as some other people. Also, I was one of only 2 white belts in the class on Saturday, and if you're a purple belt or a brown belt, as most of the guys there were, then you don't necessarily want to roll with the crippled old white belt. So that was something I had been worried about, but that didn't really happen at all. The class itself was a lot of fun. It really was. We learned quite a basic thing about passing somebody's arm across your body in order to take their back from guard. Since I play a lot of closed guard, that is something that was really useful to me, something that I will definitely use, especially a little variation we learned to turn it into a triangle, because I really like triangles. Triangles are by far my favorite submission to apply, so it's always nice to find a new way to get my legs around somebody's head like that. The class was, as I say, it was fun. We're outside. We're still not allowed indoor training here in Scotland. So we started the session with a warm-up of getting big bags of mats and taking them from the gym to a place a few hundred yards away. Now those bags of mats were not particularly heavy, just very, very awkward to carry. And it was a very warm day, so that was quite a warm-up. So then once we got the ground swept, we got a tarpaulin laid down, we put out the mats, and then we got to training. That was hard work. I was not ready for just how unfit I am. I thought, I knew I had lost a bit of fitness, but I didn't realize just how bad it was. I've not been able to do very much of anything. As I say, I was just recovering from a knee surgery right at the start of lockdown in March last year, and I'm recovering from another one now, having had the torn meniscus for the last probably about 9 or 10 months, if not longer. So it's been a long process to get here, and during that time I've not been able to exercise very much. That makes a big difference. I don't think I was quite this unfit when I first started training, so this was rough. And also I have a lot of additional tightness in my hips and knees where I already have a lot of problems. It's where the bulk of my physical problems are to begin with. I have a lot of extra tightness anyway because of some of the physiotherapy I've been doing, some of the work I've been doing to try and work on strengthening the weak parts, stretching the tight parts. Some of that has just led to some extra tightness in my hips, so it was quite uncomfortable, quite draining to get started. And worst of all is that after we did our technique for I think about 45 minutes, maybe an hour, we rolled. And I rolled with one of the purple belts, a guy I really like, really respect. He's a pretty high level competitor from in the gym. And I said to him, well, I've got this knee injury, I'm just recovering, I'm really out of shape. Try and take it fairly easy on me. And he was very gentle on me, but I had just taken a big gulp of water before getting on the mat for that roll. And then he turned me upside down a couple of times. I was already out of breath, coughing, feeling terrible, and I had to stop because I had to go and puke. I have never before puked from exercise. I've heard of it. I've heard of footballers doing pre-season training and stuff, having to do runs until they puke. I have never reached that point before, and certainly not from so little exercise. I mean, it really wasn't as intensive as you might expect to get that reaction. To be fair, I think the water was the biggest problem, but it was still kind of embarrassing, kind of depressing to realise just how far behind I've fallen, just how bad my fitness has got. But, and it is a big but, I'm still really glad I went. I'm absolutely delighted that training is back. Just seeing some of these guys now, none of them are close friends. None of them are people that I really socialise with. They're just people that I meet at training. But they're a really great bunch of guys. And girls, I should say. They really are a good bunch of people. And everybody, as I said, was so welcoming, so happy to be back, so just enthusiastic and excited and ready to have some fun. So that was a really positive experience. As I say, I felt terrible. I didn't roll again after that, so I just hung around for a bit, just watching, talking to people, trying to make excuses for how out of shape I've got. But overall, as I said, I think it's just a real pleasure to be back. I think a lot of people are in this situation now where training is getting back to normal in lots of parts of the world. Certainly here in the UK, we're all pretty much all over the UK. We're in pretty much the same situation. I understand that it's fairly similar in much of Europe. I believe there's variation around the US, but again, I think in the last couple of months or in the coming month or two, I think everybody is going to be in roughly this sort of position where you're just getting back to training. There are maybe some extra restrictions in place, but not very many. And so if I had to give advice, and bear in mind, I'm an out of shape 40-something disabled white belt. I'm not an expert on any of this. What I would say is, don't be afraid, number one. Your coach is going to be glad to see you, especially if your coach has not been able to train himself or herself for all this time, hasn't been able to teach classes, hasn't been able to be, as deep in jiu-jitsu as they want to be. they're going to be delighted just that people are back in class. It's a living for them. My own coach, I know, had to take another part-time job during lockdown just to maintain his income. So I know for a fact that he's thrilled that he can get back to making his living from jiu-jitsu. So there really isn't any excuse to be scared of getting back to training. Everybody's a bit out of shape. Everybody's a bit rusty. And if my experience is anything to go by, even if your fitness has almost completely disappeared and you're puking because the workout is too hard, that's going to be okay. People might laugh a little bit. A few people did have a laugh at me, but that's okay too. You know, that's just part of being in a gym, part of that environment. So really, don't be afraid. Everybody is happy to be back training. And if they see you, and again, especially if you are someone like me, someone who's older, someone who's got some physical limitations, someone who for whom jiu-jitsu is a bit more of a challenge than, you know, the young studs in the gym, people are going to be glad to see that you put in the effort. And that was one of the things that I felt most touched by. You know, my coach did say to me, didn't you just have surgery? Are you sure you should be here? And I said, yeah, well, you know, as long as I'm careful, I should be fine. He's like, okay, well, just keep an eye on yourself. I mean, it's good to see you, but just please don't die on your first roll. And I nearly did, but nearly is fine in that situation. The other thing I would say is, again, if you are kind of a bit older, a bit, you know, broken in some way, that's okay. Again, this is something that we just have to get used to as part of our training. If we are older, if we are more fragile in some way, we just have to be able to talk to our training partners. Coming back from surgery, I've done before. I've had 2 shoulder surgeries in the time that I've been training, capsular releases for frozen shoulders. The first one, I remember, I went back to training after about 3 or 4 weeks. I wanted to just be quite careful. The surgeon told me I could go back within about 2, but I left it a little bit longer. And I got in, and the first class we did when I got back was working on Kimuras, Americanas, and arm bars, and chaining those 3 submissions together. And I asked my coach at the time, I was like, did you do this deliberately because I told you I was coming back? And he said no. I'm not sure I believe him. But again, I spoke to my partner, my training partner. I said, this is my situation. Please be careful. Please don't really, you know, crank on the submission holds. You know, give me time to tap early. And of course, you know, my partners are serious-minded, intelligent, thoughtful people who don't want to break people's arms. So they were very generous, very supportive, gave me as much support as I needed to ease back into training. That happened with both shoulders. It turns out now, of course, that this shoulder now needs another bit of work done on it. So we'll see how that goes. That's going to happen sometime in the next month or 2, I think. But yeah, the fact is that, again, people want you to be back at training. People want to have healthy, happy, functional training partners. So if you're there, then you're doing better than 99% of the world who aren't there. You're in there and you're trying your best, and most people can respect that. Most people appreciate it. Most people recognize that BJJ is not an easy thing to do, and that if you are a bit older, if you are a bit damaged in some way, and you still come in, you still get your head down, you still work hard, you still do the work, then people appreciate that, people understand that, and people respect that. And that's something that I really appreciate about BJJ. Even if you are limited, even if you are struggling, even if you're puking after every roll for a month, the fact that you're there, the fact that you keep coming back, that you keep working hard, is what's going to get your teammates on your side and working to get you through that, to get you over that hump, to get you to a point where you can roll regularly and not, lose your lunch. So that's pretty much all I've got to say today. I'm going back to training again this week. I'm booked in for 3 sessions this week on Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. So we'll see how those go. I'm not convinced I will be able to go very much harder this week than I was on Saturday, but I'm going to give it a try. Every day getting better is one of the mottos of the gym, and that's the plan. If I can just get a little bit fitter every day that I'm at training, then in a matter of weeks or months I will be somewhere close to where I was a year and a half ago. I will be able to roll without throwing up. I will be able to get through maybe a whole rolling session, just have half a dozen rolls, and not be sick afterwards. That's the goal, obviously. So that's what I'm working on now, and hopefully I will be back at the same time next week to talk to you. In the meantime though, thank you very much for watching. If you would, then please go down into the comments, let me know what your gym situation is like. Are you back at training yet? Have you been back for a while? Did you ever stop even? And how are you coping with that issue of recovering your fitness, of getting back into the groove of training? Please also do give the video a like and share it around with your friends. Please subscribe to the channel. All of these things help me to grow the channel, to get a bit more attention, and then hopefully build the channel up and make it into something that we can all get some sort of value out of. But in the meantime, thank you very much again, and I'll see you next week.